Did the market just top out ahead of CPI? A little bit of a sell-off here today after making new highs. It is Monday, August 11th, 2025. If you like the video and the content, you find it helpful, please give the channel video a thumbs up. Helps out way more than likes, shares, and comments. Also, come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trade alerts, analysis, and live day trading. We have a great community. Hope to see you all there. Anyways, let's get into it today. So we had a little bit of a dip, and looks like, yeah, every index finishing red, even the Russell. The Russell actually held up the best. It almost basically closed flat. Breadth a little bit weak. It started off strong, and we actually pierced the 6,400 handle on the S&P and got above it for a few minutes. Intraday didn't make a new all-time high, but got pretty close. And we had a good slide towards the end of the day. It was very slow, very controlled, but there was definitely an uptick in volatility products. VIX came off the highs by the end, but you can see it really just kind of slowly crept up, and VVIX really is what caught my attention. So we're definitely seeing a little bit of a premium there in hedges, and that is typical to see ahead of CPI, right, or any sort of volatility event. But at the same time, anytime you make a new intraday high, it wasn't an all-time high. It would have been a lot better if it was. But you make a new intraday high like that, especially above that call wall, and then you close red. Never a good look. There's definitely some other things I want to talk about here too, that are definitely yellow flags. They're definitely continuing to come up here. That said, let's talk about that first. So S&P here, let's just take a look, and we'll look at the transports. We talk about the transports every day in this video, and as you know, if you know your Dow theory, it is a leading indicator. Now, it's not as good as it used to be. It's not as good as the semis are now, but it is a good leading indicator, right? Higher high, lower highs, right? While the market's making higher highs, it was a very good leading indicator. If we go back to 2022, transports bottomed a week before the market did. Even in 2020, right? Lower high versus higher high. And it's not the end of the world, right? To make let's get rid of this here. It's not like, if we pulled back to 16,000 or something like that, I wouldn't think too much about it. But it's a significant lower high, right? And you're about to confirm a lower low too. And you're losing the moving averages, right? So it's struggling here. It definitely raises a red flag to me. XLF, we've talked about this too. Financials, very important leading indicator. That's what avoided that's what saved me from being on the wrong side of that sell in Feb. So it's where I got out of everything. Again, not broken. No lower high confirmed yet. Still holding the 50 MA, but if it loses that, that's definitely not good to me. Breadth not the greatest, that's no secret. I also look at, again, I hate to be that guy who points out RSI, but things here remain overbought and divergent for a long time. But kind of comparing this to last year, the higher high with a lower high, it's definitely starting to set up there. And this lower high was technically a higher high in price. So if we do that again, this is a pretty steep diversion, much steeper than that one was. So definitely some red flags. That said, I think if we dip tomorrow on CPI, it's probably a buy, at least in the short term. I don't think we're going to, volatility is too compressed here ahead of OPEX. And by the way, in case you're wondering, VIX expiration is not this Wednesday, it's next week. So we have a little bit of an extended window of kind of supportive flow here. That doesn't change the bigger structural problems that are going on, and maybe those rectify. We'll see. I talked about for me personally, I would love to see short seller. I would love to see hedge funds give up. They just won't give up right now. They continue to double down on short the Russell, short the Dow. Banks are on the other side of that. I would love to see something happen to get them to give up, because that's how we're gonna top out. There's just too much front running, and there's just too much. Every time we have a dip, everybody's going to call the top. I see it on Twitter all day long. And I think that's what's keeping us buoyant or helping for sure. So yesterday I talked about like the peace deal stuff. Just to clarify, I'm pretty sure because a lot of you guys weighed in on that, and I'm pretty sure every single one of you like understood what I was getting at. But just to clarify, I'm not saying a peace deal is going to happen. Um, I'm not predicting that, but I'm saying that there's dealer hedges to 6,500 and they're growing. And in my mind, okay, what could be a catalyst that could get us there, right? So that's why I brought that up. Additionally, this administration has a track record, right? They don't even need to have a peace deal. Trump can just say, "Oh well, we're really close. We made some great progress," and then or he can have one of somebody from his administration do that, right? And we've seen that move the tape before, so we don't need to have it happen. But there is dry tinder. And I think if that, we talked about the Russell 230, it keeps coming up. So I think they want that. And I think that would be enough to get hedge funds to force cover. So that's what I would want to see for a top. But till then, definitely yellow flags popping up, but I think this week we're just too well supported here. So anyway, Q's holding up here. They did make a new all-time high, and did close red, but it's still above Friday's low, so I'm not going to freak out over it. Nvidia, AMD, and Broadcom shook off that news like nothing. So, and a lot of the other semis I noticed were up earlier. I think so they did come back in, but they were strong earlier in the day. So Russell still got that tight range here, and it's just again dry tinder. Diamond, same kind of pattern, a little sloppier. Semis, again finished flat. IGV rolled over pretty hard. It actually had a nice bid, red to green, and that did roll over hard. So cloud is definitely weaker. It's had a really good run, but softer now. Transports we talked about. Bonds tomorrow. ZT got a decent bull inside bar. ZN and ZB, same kind of look. I still see kind of supportive flow here on TLT for this week. So I just think it's a case of, I'm not bullish bonds long term, but I think it's a case of there's just too many shorts just right now. And just to illustrate here, right, like everybody, can see this is like a cup and handle type pattern, right? But they can take a long time to play out. Case in point, gold, right? Look at everybody. There are people calling this part the cup and handle. This was the cup and handle. This was the cup and handle. It took like four years to play out, right? Because everybody jumps on, like, who wouldn't want to catch this trend leg, right? And I think you've got too many participants just wanting to be a part of that. It can drag these things out. Just a hunch. Anyway, XHB down on the day but came off the lows. IYR weak. Glad I got rid of that last week. XLF we talked about. KRE, it's trying. It's got to reclaim 60. Broker dealers flattish. Oil holding that little pivot. It's nothing. I mean, if we get to 60 without consolidation, I would consider bidding it. XLE, XOP, and OIH all weak. Dollar, that's a fake print, by the way, but it is trying for a higher low here. Gold took a little bit of a spill, came off the lows. There was news about, what was it, like no tariff restriction on imports, something of that nature. It was very strange because this is what gold futures did, and this is what GLD did. So definitely and GDX bid too. So definitely a divergence there. Silver down. And platinum trying for higher low there. It's not a bad dip buy. Same thing with palladium. holding the 50. Copper hanging in there, 450's resistance. Bitcoin made new all-time highs, but no follow-through. So this is probably going to need a base if it's going to try and do that. ETH trying to set up as well. So I would only call this a really negative if it like really takes this low out. Otherwise, it could easily just, you know, base up here. I know it like looks bearish, but kind of like I don't know if there's an example I can point to right off the top of my head, but this has happened before where you try to hit the top and then you just kind of, you know, it's not the end of the world here yet. I want to say I've seen it on the spiders before. But anyway, you guys get the idea. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. CPI in the morning. See if they try to dunk it. I don't think we're going to break down yet, but definitely some red flags here coming up. So be careful out there. Anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up here. And you guys take care. Don't forget to come find me on carnivoretrades.com, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow.